Uh, Hi and welcome to this video. In this video, I'm going to be talking about treatment of a sinus complication. This is a patient that showed up to my office with a failed socket preservation, and that led to a fistula into the sinus. I opened the sinus, as you can see. We debrided it carefully under IV sedation. And then here I did place a PRF and I tacked them, and then I did a rotated pedicle flap to close and seal for the healing that sinus fistula. So a few months later, I start doing the sinus elevation, and here I use the piezo to remove and expose the Schneiderian membrane. So I do the lateral window that way by scraping off the bone, as you can notice. Um, no pressure onto the membrane. You put it on a cortical bone with the new one, and you just do a gentle scraping. Sometimes you have to put a little bit of pressure, but not too much that you don't break into the membrane. Although piezo is made not to break into the membrane, but a very strong pressure can sometimes inadvertently do that. So again, it's a tedious work. So you can see it's a long process, but it's a more controlled process than doing with a round burr. And continuously here, you see I do I go downward, upward, and reverse to the back. So it's a washing and scraping, and you can see all of this bone that's collected. Now there is the jury out there is a paper by Myron, and he says that this bone is not good to be used. So I rarely use that bone. Here, you can see how it's stuck to the side. But in this case, I had a perforation that you can see it down below, and you can see it very vividly here. Big opening that was from that fistula or that failure extraction socket. Now I collect all of that bone. I still use it, even if the study doesn't show much. It doesn't hurt. Now I go to the trumpet of the piezo and I put at special. And here I'm doing through that perforation. I'm trying to elevate the membrane from the bottom, because that membrane, it becomes scarry from the previous surgery. Now, one thing to note here, when you open the flap after you did the pedicle, you need to dissect the flap from that membrane, and that membrane becomes very scarry at the bottom, and it can get stuck and jammed in that opening. So you start by freeing it a little bit, and then you start the process of a regular lateral window using the piezo. I've been using the piezo since it came to United States in 2002, and it's my favorite tool. I do everything with it. Before I start surgeries, I do scaling with it. I clean up the mouth before we do surgery, and then here in the membrane with the elevation, I do extractions with it, and I have come up with a new patent to use it for crested sinus. So now I start elevating the membrane. Here you can notice this is my favorite instrument in doing the elevation. I use the Pritchett curette from Perio. That's how I elevate the membrane from the bone. Here you are working in a condition of a very scarry hard tissue to mobilize. So it is a lot of patience and it is tedious work, but nevertheless you have to be very, very patient. So don't get too carried away that you want to go fast. It's not about speed here. It's about a lot of finesse and control of your nerves. Because here you have double whammy. You have an opening that you did for the lateral, and you have an opening on the occlusal surface. So that's very important to control and not to be impatient. And even if perforation takes place, which they will, don't lose your temper. Now I move to the elevate the curette here using a Hue 3D blackened instruments that create a better visual. And I start elevating, and I go all the way in to the medial wall. I want to repeat this. Forget about the perforation here. Anytime you are elevating, you have to move the membrane all the way to get in contact to the medial wall. If you don't do that, you are doing basically a cone head. Now I start my placement of the allograft mixture that I have. It's mineralized allograft. I use LifeNet Health. It's distributed by Stroman. As you notice, I start always with that angle, the occlusal anterior angle. I press down, I condense them, then we go and put, and so I start building from there. I work my way. Now here we have a perforation on the bottom, so not necessary to put a lot of pressure downward to the floor. As you can see, I'm more, but I go with it all the way to contact the medial wall. Because if I don't contact the medial wall, I am not filling the sinus completely. And again, a lot of tedious work, very controlled movement. This is an instrument that I had for many years. I couldn't find one replicating to it, but I did a sinus kit with the Ufridi. You're more than welcome to contact Ufridi and ask them about the kit by Elchar, and you can find it. So again, this is the patience that you have to take and do it slowly and gently and methodically. Always just start by building your cornerstone on the anterior occlusal, and from there, as you can notice, it builds its way. So it's a cornerstone. Everything in construction, there is a cornerstone, as you're familiar with that term. So that's your cornerstone, and from that point, you can build upon it. Again, you continue the placement of the bone. Look, you notice I don't press hard. It's not about pressure hard, because if you press hard, you can pop the membrane. It's not about that. It's always into the direction where you elevate it towards the medial wall. And these, when you are injecting with those, it can be like a bullet if it is too dry. You have to be very careful when you're putting it slowly. Again, I condense it like that. In that Ufridi kit, I have found an instrument similar as possible. This is a very, very good instrument to go in contact to the medial wall and condense onto the occlusal side, and again filling. And you can see it is a very, very tedious work. Notice here where I pressed, there was not a lot of depression. That means we are in the gut process of filling. And I try to remove all the particulate that they are all over the place. I don't like to leave them inside. That can be a site of infection. So, not I'm saving the bone, just that I just don't like it to be there into the soft tissue. They can get, they want to work its way out, and as you see, I scrape them off. And here I'm pressing to see how well the bone is inside.
I'm getting there, Luigi. I'm getting there.
I add more to create more of a membrane in that opening.
Just change everybody's name.
Again, light condensation inwards.
Empty. Yeah, there you go.
I get called a bunch of different
I think you're going to closer, maybe. Huh?
Closer?
And I scrape all the excess of bone. Do not leave that excess of bone. Either put it back in or throw it out. but do not leave those particles. They can work against you, can create some infection, irritation, because they will work their way out. So we're getting close to the end of the filling of the sinus.
No.
As you can see here, we have it completely filled, bottom and top.
Put more. It wasn't enough.
And now what I did in this case, instead of using a regular membrane, as you're gonna see, I placed a PRF membranes.
Should have told me before we started surgery that I prepare myself mentally about it. Oh, do not touch my hand. Okay, give me a lot of cortical. All right.
I'm still putting an extra
Add more liquid to make it not so dry.
layer. At that point, my extra layer will be more cortical bone.
You have.
And you can tell from the difference in color. It is more whitish, more dense, and that I use it basically as a membrane to cover my opening, my window. Here I put also more cortical inside that opening.
No more. That's it.
Sinuses like this, they will take 4 cc's.
And I'm gonna lay down this.
And this is the placement of the PRF membrane onto the lateral window.
Yeah. 1 second. Too many people around me.
And on the occlusal
These
opening.
from the last batch,
You
right?
lay them, and you can even tack them if you want. Not necessary, but you can do that. It sticks very nicely, and I tuck it under the lingual flap a bit, and put them on top of each other. And after that, you close the flap, and here we do the cases with IV sedation, so we wait for the patient to wake up, and we go over the post-op instructions that they're very important.
Put the
Try
cover
to
back on
you
top
have
of
to
this.
instruct them very well not to blow their nose, not to sneeze with their pinching their nose. If they have to sneeze, open their mouth. I always give them Flonase to spray once a day in the nostril. Here it's the right side. And if congested, give them Sudafed, non-drowsy. Be careful with the Sudafed if they take blood pressure medication. So 8 months later, we take a CBCT, and here you can see the good bone fill of this allograft, which I find it ironic how people attacked me about when I wrote a editorial and about the allograft, that it's really the new autogenous bone. Look at this beauty. And they said in the response, and that's Dr. Mish, he said that in sinus everything works because it's a contained, but this is not a contained sinus, and that's what proof that allograft work. Allograft is reliable. You do that with a xenograft, that's not predictable. So you can see how well dense the bone. You can see the filling in the bone in that lateral window. You can see it from above when I showed it before, and the sealing of that opening. So now we go for the clinical approach. I do my U-shape flap. I urge you to read this chapter of soft tissue in my book. I placed 2 TLX Stroman, and I did my pedicle flap to do a papilla, and that is the x-ray of the placement. Enjoyed it, and that is the end, and the case is very successful. Thank you so much for watching.